Welcome back. So you'll notice there's a lot of projects in this solution right here, and let's just run over the project types because you can always add new projects by saying add new project, and here are the types that I've worked with. Most of my projects are what we call class libraries, and actually the class libraries is just, it'll end up being just a simple DLL file in C#, which is just a file where you cannot open like a UI, you don't open a console app, you don't open a web API. It's just a file that like a console app can use or a web API can use. It's just a file that can help you out, right? A DLL file. So that's most of my projects. Let's talk about the class library projects. It's this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So those are all what's called class libraries, which are just helper classes, right? They don't have any console in there at all. They are all just to kind of provide help for the console app. So what else do we have? We have another project down here, which is actually what's called ASP.NET Core Web Application. And this is the next one that you have in your setup. And this one, again, notice it's a .NET Core again. It's a .NET 3.1 in my setup. And here you can actually pick what kind of web API we have. And in my case, it's not with Angular. It's not with a model view controller setup. It's actually a web API that I'm building, so you of course need to pick that. And in my case, I didn't choose any authentication. I don't need it right now, so I kind of didn't choose that, and I say create, and that's what this project is all about. And then the final project that we have is the test project, and in my case, I installed something called XUnit. So I could actually go in here and say I want to make a unit test project, and I picked XUnit down here. Whoops, XUnit. And now this is just for testing, and I'll get back to that later on. So we'll talk about that again. But these are the projects I have. And why did I pick these projects? Well, let's again go back to our beautiful drawing right here. First of all, the test project is kind of self-explanatory. I have it right here, and I want it down here. And the one I'm going to test first is like the primary driver adapters, which pretty much the adapters or the services that I'm going to get available down here. That's the first thing I want to test. So I made that available as a project. The next thing that I want to talk about is the UI. In my case, that's going to be a REST API, and that's this guy up here. He's going to know about the core, but he's not going to kind of know directly about anything in the core. He's going to know about a specific package that's going to be services inside my core. So I'm going to have that down here. Now the user interface, if we talk about the hexagonal architecture, that's normally called the driver. That's the guy who drives the show. He wants to create something. He wants to update something. This guy is kind of the guy who pushes the changes to our system. So he's the driver, right? And that's kind of why I went in and I called this the primary drivers right now. And I only have one primary driver right now, which is the REST API, but I could get more as we move forward. So that's the primary drivers. Then we have the infrastructure adapters. Now the only one I have right now is an SQL adapter. We're going to get back to that. But the adapters is going to be our infrastructure right here. And they're going to kind of know a way to kind of talk to our core through ports. So we're going to open up different ports, different access points to the core. So think of it this way. I want to open up the outside world. I'm going to open up some ports so you can communicate to me from either from here to here or from here to here. I'm going to open up access points for that. From here it's going to be services that I'm going to open up so you can get those, and from here I'm going to open up with infrastructure ports so you can kind of communicate to me using different interfaces, right? So that's the ports, and that's the infrastructure. Now then we have the core, which I split into 4 different areas. You don't need that. I just decided to do it to kind of make each area very clear about what that area kind of should do for us, right? So we have different areas. We have the entities, and if we look at the drawing again, these are the entities, the very center, the very heart of our core of our application. That's what we're going to build there. We have the primary infrastructure ports. These are going to contain the interfaces that the infrastructure is going to kind of talk to, or kind of the contracts that the infrastructure needs to uphold to kind of help me out, right? We'll get back to that again later. And then we have the adapters. Let's take the ports actually first. These are going to be the interfaces that the service will know about so that I know exactly what should be available. If I later want to kind of split this into its own service layer, I might want to do that, but not right now. So I'm going to open up some ports so that I know exactly what the core kind of needs to execute business logic that I require to fulfill all the different business or domain features that I have in my business. And the final thing is the adapters. They're going to use those interfaces to kind of do implementation of all of these areas. Now that was a lot of gibberish again, maybe because you're not used to this. So next lesson we're going to start actually building some real code so you can start seeing what's going to be in the different areas and how I'm going to actually do implementation in the different areas, and maybe it'll just start making more and more sense every time we do that. But now you know what everything is in here and how you can actually go and create it yourself if you want to build it from scratch later. So let's end there and see you next time, where we're going to try and build our first port and our first entity. See you next time. Bye-bye.